Welcome. This is Diane Gilson with InfoPlus Accounting, and we're going to have a great presentation for you today from Bob Kane, Business Unit Leader for BuildTools and Bolt at ECI. So our ECI BuildTools, and we're going to be talking about technology, productivity, and profitability for builders. So hi, Bob. Welcome. Glad to have you here today.
Thanks, Diane. Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for joining the session.
Great. Let's go on to our next slide just to kind of talk about why we're teaming up today. And it's because QuickBooks Desktop, which is the version of QuickBooks that I work in for job costing and our clients, it's a great program for job costing, job reporting based on accounts, and for seeing estimated versus actual costs at a cost code level. And you can even get cloud access via hosting, which allows multiple users to sign in simultaneously. But with QuickBooks, even though it can be customized to provide the management and job cost reports that are critical to management, it is missing some specific communication and instant tech features that a lot of contractors really want. And so that's why I wanted Bob to visit with us to show us some of the various nifty tech, productivity, communication, and profit enhancing features you can get with BuildTools, even while you're also maintaining the integrity of your detailed accounting data within QuickBooks Desktop. So about Bob, I'll just do a brief introduction. He had a really long bio. I had to try to boil it down here. And he's business unit leader for BuildTools and Bolt at a pretty large company called ECI. And he's responsible for customer experience, business expansion, team growth, software development, daily operations. And he does have 22 years of experience in residential construction. He's been deeply involved in his local home builder association and BLSI, and I believe it's NJBA since 2004. What are those two organizations, Bob?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the National Association of Home Builders, they have divisions across the country. So Builders League of South Jersey is an HBA that is tied to the National Association of Home Builders, and okay. NJBA stands for the New Jersey Builders Association. So I was a member of my local and the state. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm very familiar with the NAHB. I've been a member for many, many years, and I just wasn't familiar with those two. So thanks for clarifying that. He's also a certified graduate associate designation from the NAHB and a certified NAHB instructor with the University of Housing. He's got a bachelor's degree with a major in business information systems management, a wife, 3 kids, and I put in parentheses, and a dog with a smiley face, is another dog lover. And you're going to have to tell us about this, Records Certified Youth Coach, currently coaching tackle football and travel softball for teams in which your children participate. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I've been coaching for a while. I have a 24-year-old as my oldest. I have a 14-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son, and all 3 were very actively involved in sports. So I've been involved for a while, and right now my 14-year-old and my 11-year-old are right in the mix of it. So I'm busy coaching softball and football pretty much all year round.
All right, and of course, since we're sponsoring, I get to talk just a bit about myself. I don't like to spend much time on here, but I have been working in QuickBooks for many, many years and helping folks in construction set everything up in the right way through both one-to-one coaching and online classes. And I've got pretty extensive accounting background. Before I got into my own company, I spent 16 years in public accounting and 13 years in banking. So we started InfoPlus in '94 and more than 25 years working with business owners and accounting staff. And then underneath there, if you want to take the time to read it, I've got all certifications that I've picked up over the last number of years. And the thing I think I'm happiest about, for 8 years, I've been named as one of the top 100 pro advisors in the country, as well as the top niche practice construction pro advisor. So that's a little more than I normally talk about myself, but that's it. So Bob, I'm going to make you the presenter. I'm going to let Bob take it from here until it's time to give away a prize a little later.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Diane. I really appreciate being here. And I'm not going to get into too much details around the specifics of BuildTools. I want to talk a little bit more about the need. As Diane pointed out, QuickBooks is an excellent product to manage your finances. It is the desktop version, has excellent reporting capabilities and job cost accounting capabilities. So we want to talk about some of the communication aspect of construction that are important. First, let's start with the technology side of it. This is another piece of software. It comes from technology, and we've been through a lot over the last 2 years. Could have never imagined what the industry would have gone through here with the pandemic and other factors that were caused or trickled from the pandemic, and challenges that we ran into, such as labor and supply shortages, the high demand for homes, remodel projects, consumers expanding their homes at the rate that they were doing so, prices going up. And so that brought up a number of challenges. So it started with not being able to meet in person. And then those challenges really went right through the operational flow of all of our businesses to the point at which every one of us in this field had to take a step forward in technology. We were sort of forced to over the last couple of years. So why technology? Well, technology can help us do things. It is a tool. It is not the end all be all, but it is a tool to advance our businesses. I think a lot of us has seen that as we had navigated through this pandemic. I wanted to start here and just thinking about our industry in total. And I found a research company, McKinsey and Company, and what they do is they put out some statistics on digitalization, and it's a digitalization index. And what it does is it looks at all the industries out there, and through surveys and studies and analytics, what it does is it reports back and says, how digitized is that industry? Meaning, how much of that industry and the operation within and all the communication that takes place in that industry, how much of it is really digitized? Meaning, it's using software, it's using technology. And so right up at the top, we would expect things like media, professional services, finance to be pretty digitized. But where we found construction in this list, which may not be a surprise to a lot of people, but we found it really close to the end. And we do have one leg up on an industry sector, and that's agriculture and hunting. So we're still far behind. We have a lot of work to do in this sector. And all of the other sectors that you see in front of construction that have been through this, that have maximized digitalization, have really grown and scaled and really evolved. So it's definitely a good thing to think about. When we look at the individual companies that make up this industry, and we think about custom builders and remodelers, and we think about who are the custom builders and remodelers who do not have any software in place at all. And so 43% is what came back on an industry survey. That means a little less than half are not using any software outside of bookkeeping software like QuickBooks and tax software, any other software really for the business. And those custom builders and remodelers who have never used what is referred to here as SaaS project management system, and that is software as a service, and that means a product that runs in the cloud and that you use to run your business for project management. So the number of custom builders and remodelers who have never used a project management system in the cloud is 63%. And then the custom builders and remodelers who have never used an integrated solution at all. Again, really taking away from bookkeeping focus on QuickBooks and finance software, really thinking about the rest of the organization, 77% have really never used a solution like that. So we have some work to do in the industry, and we can definitely overcome some of the obstacles that we're running into today with the use of the technology. So I also wanted to pull up a quick study here that a company based out of Australia has recently done. It was the State of the Industry by the Association of Professional Builders. And what they asked a number of questions to over 700 builders in various countries, and they were trying to get feedback not only in the US or Australia, but in various countries to really see where the construction industry current pain points are. So the question here that stuck out to me was, what is your biggest challenge in terms of running a project? And by no surprise, we have a worldwide challenge right now of subcontractor delays, material delays, cost overruns, and then cash flow comes in right there behind. So when we think about those things, the subcontractor delays was by far the number one, but we all know that material shortages were also a challenge as we go through. So what I want to do is, as we go through the presentation here, I want to also think about and talk about how can we use technology in some of these processes and procedures to overcome some of these challenges as we go through. So why is communication difficult? Well, Forget about technology in general. We do a lot of complicated things when we are remodeling a project, or we're building a brand new house, or somewhere in between. During that process, the work and the scope of work has to be defined between a business and a consumer. Financial agreements of how the project is going to be paid for are made up front. Cost and budgets are set. And then there are various individuals and companies that are brought into the mix. So there is communication that needs to happen from the very beginning expectations through the individual trade partners and suppliers that are supplying and performing the work, and all the way trickling back over through project management back to the employees within the organization. So there are communication breakdowns that could happen, and we'll talk about some of those as we go through the presentation. But those communication breakdowns are and can be very costly to projects that we manage. So some of the places where communication can really have the biggest impact in managing a project are listed here. Again, this is more data that we've taken from some of our customers. And I didn't say this in the beginning, but within ECI has multiple verticals of focus, but the primary focus for all of the customer base is the small to medium size business. And in the vertical in which BuildTools lives in, which is the residential construction vertical, we have about 27,000 customers. And so we regularly do research and we regularly do surveys and things like that out to existing customers. And so some of the feedback that we have gotten is that the top 3 reasons why communication failures can happen and why that can be a problem for your projects are you're communicating in silos. So that means that somebody in one part of the organization that had something to do with the project agreed upon or said something or moved forward with the decision, and maybe that was not fully communicated to the rest of the organization. So that's what we talk about with communicating in silos. Not closing the feedback loop. So maybe a buyer asked for a change or a price on a change, and then a lot of things happened. Somebody had to evaluate, research, look at product, bid it out with vendors, talk to the construction manager, see if we could do it. And so there are usually breakdowns in the feedback loop, either going to whoever initially requested it or at any point in that feedback loop of research and leading up to the point of that change. And then the last of the 3 here is the lack of visibility and accountability. So, I mean, just think about that loop that we just talked about, a change during construction. Where are we? What is the status? Who is accountable for it? Who's getting the pricing? Who's getting back to the buyer? These are all processes and procedures and things that we all have in our businesses that we're comfortable doing, but things that really lead to breakdowns in communication if we don't carefully manage that type of communication. One of the solutions to being able to clearly manage that and better manage the way that you are doing that is with the use of technology. So when we think about technology, yes, there is a cost to it. So for BuildTools in particular, there's a monthly cost. And so taking on a monthly cost, sometimes we look at that and we say, well, you know, I don't want to spend that right now. I'm going to do it this other way. Well, we need to look at it like, is the technology going to pay for itself? Does it bring enough value to the business to justify the cost that it is going to incur on the business? And so some of the ways to think about not just BuildTools, but really, quite frankly, any technology that you're thinking about in the construction process would be to look at what the upside on that technology may be. So the first one in here is to standardize process. And Diane had mentioned that I've been in this industry for 22 years. I've worked with hundreds, probably getting close to 1,000 different customers at this point. And one of the things that really sticks out to me is when working with products like this, that were developed from the ground up for a specific industry like BuildTools was, there is something that is consistent in that the product brings best practices. And so that means every single customer that uses it is taking advantage of the previous customer's best practices all the way through. And so the feedback loop to software is usually to add more things that are going to help everybody moving forward. And so really the thing that you can look at technology, and in this case particularly BuildTools and software, is that there are standard processes built into the business. So when your organization looks at a product like this to manage project management, to manage communication, the way that the product is laid out, because it is very specific to your industry, can really lend itself to having inherent best practices that you can follow along with. So really, it's a way to really level up your business and overcome all of those old documents and pieces of paper and things that were in people's minds on how we do things, and get it into a nice streamlined best practices approach. The next thing is project budgets. You really need to know where you are with the financials on any job that you are managing. And so to be able to do that at any given point in time is something that you have the capability of doing today in QuickBooks. You can go into QuickBooks and figure out where you are. Where a project management tool comes into play is that there is a lot of information that is fed into QuickBooks. Somebody out in the field agreed to a price to do something. Again, there was some other feedback loop, verification, and approval. And then the invoice may take a week, 2 weeks, however long to actually get to accounting. We may not always have the most up-to-date information from a financial standpoint. But if we're using a real-time project management solution where everybody within the organization is engaged in all of the individual functions that they are responsible for and updating, now it gets you closer to understanding up to the minute budget status, budget cost. And so really you're going to know where you are from a financial standpoint. Your financials are going to be more accurate as you go through that. Now we'll talk a little bit about change orders as we move forward here in just a bit, but we all know change orders happen in construction and we have to be able to stay up to date on those change orders at all times. Change orders, when managed effectively, can be profitable and can make customers very happy. Change orders, when not managed effectively, can be a disaster. So technology can help you in that area. In-platform communication means that any one of us can call or text message or email anybody at any time. But if we're all inside of a platform, all looking at the same project, not only can we have communication within that platform, but we can also have that communication saved and stored in an area where multiple people can see it. And client communication. Remember, we said in the beginning that a lot of these projects, or just about every one of these projects, start with a client and expectations in the very beginning. So being able to have very good client communication is going to help you with more referrals and improve your business. All right, so what we really have focused on and what we really focus on as an industry is the cost and the record keeping and the finances of these projects. So I wanted to break down, put a little bit of a graphic up here on the details of creating a budget and really where that goes. And so if we think about those expectations that we have with a client up front, we have a contract with that client, and then as a builder, we need to determine how that contract is going to go. So for example, some of us have cost plus agreements that we prefer, and we may use multiple variations of this as home building organizations. We may change it based on the project, based on the customer. So the most common types of contracts out there are cost plus, which means essentially we're going to open the book. And so the end consumer is going to understand every aspect of the budget from the ground up, and they are going to pay us a fee for managing the job. The next one is fixed price, which means we're going to agree on a sales price and we'll give them some minimal detail with selections and choices and colors and things like that. But from a costing standpoint, they pay a fixed price regardless of what our cost is. And then as builders, it's important for us to manage our cost at a level that's going to return a profit, allowing the business to continue to grow. And then there's also a hybrid model, which maybe we have a sales price in the beginning that covers our fee and then everything else afterwards, maybe cost plus or line items with fees. So these are the three most, I'm not sure if everybody on here does some combination of these three, but these are the three most common ways that we see custom home builders and remodelers contract with end users. Let's say that the budget starts with one of those three methods of managing the project. Then what we have to do is we have to create the budget. So there's a little bit of guesswork based on maybe some history or based on what we understand from pricing that we have on file from our trades. And then we go through the process of bidding the work out. So we know what we're going to build now. We've drawn it. We've made some selections. Now we have to go and we have to bid the work out to our trades. And then we really want to nail down the price with those trades to eliminate confusion. And then we may come up with some purchase orders. And then there's kind of a circle here where a lot of builders kind of get caught up and they kind of go in circles in these areas. There's more selections that need to happen. Do we issue POs or do we not? What happens if there's changes? Do we put another purchase order out there? Well, what happens if we need to make more selections? Now we want to add a schedule, but now there's changes in the schedule. And while all this is happening, there are bills coming in from trades because we started construction. So while all this is happening, this can be challenging to manage without a good system in place. And while all this is happening, we have to get paid. So again, based on that contract in the beginning, we may need to ask the consumer, the homeowner, for draws to be able to pay us, or we may need to ask a bank to pay us, or we may get paid a deposit and then get paid again at the end. Either way, we have to keep track of how much we've received and what is left to receive. So while all of this happens, it all really revolves around the concept of a budget, but it's all within the concept of communicating through the project as we go. So technology can certainly help us, as we'll talk about in a minute. So here's a scenario that some of us may have found ourselves in. Again, an area where managing this project with good communication could really help us. Have you ever been in a situation where, man, we're talking and we're looking and we're reviewing the situation and somebody asks, where are we? Why are we over budget on the kitchen? Why is the kitchen costing us more money than we thought? Well, the tile you chose was more than we initially budgeted. Wait a minute, and then the homeowner may say, I didn't agree to the extra cost. So how could that possibly happen? Well, this might be an example of a situation where we said, you know what? The average cost of this tile is around this much money. We spent a lot of time trying to find the tile, but what we want to get away from is a lack of communication. We want to get away from averages, and we want to be able to nail down exactly how much something is going to cost so that we don't get into this situation later. And that's really keeping track of it and systemizing it, having clear documentation, and avoiding surprises. So the reality here is maybe we gave a cost for an option or a selection, and there were hundreds of different tile to choose from. And when the tile was finally chosen and the exact specifications of that particular file came out, it was $7.98 a square foot, which may have been $1 more than the square foot average that we may have said going in, or the allowance going in. So these scenarios happen every single day, and builders handle it different ways every day. Some of you may be thinking, wow, I don't really have a problem with this, while others may say, wow, I was burned on that. It goes far beyond kitchens and tiles. It really has to do with everything throughout the process. So we are able to really think about these types of scenarios and avoid them. We'll be in better shape. Another one here for you is, why hasn't the water been removed from the job site? Well, I finished the excavation job, but it's not really my problem that it rained, coming from the excavator. But I thought that we discussed removing the water yesterday from the builder. So again, this is a scenario now that does not have to do with the tile or with change orders or the actual budget within. This has to do with expectations, and in this case, accountability on the construction side of things. So again, you want to be able to avoid disagreements with your subs on how much they're being paid, what they're supposed to do, what the expectations are. You want to be able to avoid that. And the way that you can do that is providing them with direction. And that direction can come in simple tasks that are assigned to them, or like the industry well knows, is purchase orders, because the purchase order will totally control the cost, and the schedule will tell them exactly when they have to go out and do what they're supposed to do. This can eliminate thousands of dollars in problems, and it's going to eliminate that because you have the proper documentation to keep everybody on the same page as you go through that process. Getting us back to budgeting for a second, some of the best practices that we've seen from putting together a budget, where in the beginning, the budget is kind of a concept or an art. It really moves itself to an estimate. Then as we refine the drawings of the remodel job or the custom home that we are about to build, now we have a budget that is really based on specs, because now we know exactly what we're going to deliver. And this is what we call a design budget. And then it isn't really until we bid it out, we get clarification from our vendors, we have final plans, we have final selections where we can say we have a tight budget. So the budget has a lot of fluidness to it. And so where do we keep these budgets if we don't have a really good project management tool? Well, we could put them in Excel and multiple people can have access to that Excel spreadsheet, but that causes issues because now we don't really have a great audit on where the changes are coming from or who agreed to what. But having a good project management system in place that has budgeting at the core infrastructure, the core DNA of the product, is going to allow you to manage the most important part of this project from the very beginning in a way where everybody can stay on the same page, getting yourself to the point of understanding your cost so that you can manage the project. Now, we talked about the shortages of labor in the beginning and some of the supply chain disruption in the beginning. So one of the ways to gain a competitive advantage in a market like that, with challenges like that, is to really be the builder that the trades want to work for. And so really the way that you do that is you got to be able to build trust within the trade partners. Having good word of mouth recommendations is important, especially when it goes from one client to the other. But from a trade standpoint, the trades really want to get paid on time. They want the details of what they need to do to accomplish the goals that you have. They want that to be very clearly defined for them. They want to know when they're going to get a request from a builder from the system for the project that is being bid. They want to stay organized, because if they are organized and they understand exactly what you want, that is going to help them succeed, and it's going to help you build a better project. And they need to be ready for the subs need to be ready for the on-site when they arrive. So if you have material that is coming to the job site, and right now we know there's shortages and there are different things that may complicate that situation, we need to be able to have good communication tools so that we can be maneuverable and clearly communicate to our subs, keeping everybody on the same page. All right, so a little bit about BuildTools. BuildTools, and I mentioned a little bit about this in the beginning, BuildTools is a product that was developed by a custom home builder that also has a remodeler company. And that custom builder tried a number of different software products out there and said, you know what, I think we need to develop one because we need something that really starts at the budget level. It speaks to the cost codes, and it really focuses on the things that home builders and remodelers really need to run a successful business. And then we need to build out the infrastructure to manage those things that prevent us from making money and being efficient and really cause the most risk to the business. And so that's really where BuildTools came from. It was self-consumed for a number of years. It went to market, and ECI acquired the product in 2020 and continued to take it to market and implement it to hundreds of builders, really worldwide. So getting into, and we talked about some of the budget constraints and budget scenarios that you may run into as builders and some of the communication scenarios. We brought those up because BuildTools was designed to solve those problems. BuildTools was also designed to really clarify expectations from a selection and a change order standpoint. As a builder that's building a custom brand new home, or you're remodeling a job, you have to, when you're working with the buyer, you have to be able to make some selections up front. And then that buyer needs to, or in many cases wants to, make changes because they change their mind and things happen as they go. And you may need to go back to that buyer and say, hey, we're all forced to make this change because what you picked is on a supply shortage. So we have to make some different decisions anyway. So there is a selections and change order management aspect of BuildTools that I wanted to show you here that keeps track of what it is that we're actually doing, the date of approval, and a number of other factors to go along with it. The capability of the system is to be able to define exactly what that change is and then have the buyer sign off on it electronically to approve it and say, yes, that is in fact what I intended in this change, and that's what I'd like to do, and I approve to pay this much money for the change. And then inside of BuildTools, that change is then routed over to the budget. So now the budget is updated. So now we have, as a construction company, we have an accurate budget. We've appended to that final budget that we just talked about and coming up with that final budget solution with either an initial or initial selection or a change order throughout. And now we have an accurate cost of exactly what this is going to cost us. And we have the amount of money that the buyer agreed to pay us signed off on electronically. And then we have the capability from within BuildTools. So we can scrape the internet for pictures. We can pull over supply numbers. We can do research on websites while we're making these selections. And then once it's approved within BuildTools, we have the capability of then associating a purchase order with it so that the vendor knows exactly what they have to do. And then that purchase order associates with the schedule so the vendor knows exactly when they have to go out and perform that function. And then they know they're going to get paid what's on the purchase order, and they're going to do what everybody agreed needs to happen. And so that's just one aspect of BuildTools. And it's an area where we really think can help you improve your margins, because If you have effective budget management, you have good clarity, you're getting paid regularly, your trades are getting paid regularly. That is a way to run a good, consistent business, is keeping up with the budget and keeping everybody on the same page from a payment standpoint. So sometimes you can be overwhelmed or too busy with what you have to work on, and sometimes it's too late. You may think it's too late to change the budget, but when you have good change order tracking in place, you can certainly do so. So the beauty of BuildTools is that it makes it easy to be able to go through and manage these changes without all of the paperwork that's involved, because everything is electronic. All right, so we've talked a little bit about BuildTools and some of the functionality that it solves. I just want to give you a real high-level view of some of the things that it does, and we would be happy to give you a more in-depth demonstration of the product if you are interested. But some of the things that it does is, from the very beginning, it keeps track of the estimates on a job that you are looking at, and it takes care of the proposals. So it allows you to do plan red lines, send out bids to your trade contractors. If you accept these bids, that will go forward and actually update your budget. It allows you to document what is happening on job sites, as well as keep track of everything in a job folder. We talked about budgets quite a bit, so it keeps track of all the budget information and versions of budgets for each of the jobs that you work on. It allows you to create and make selections within the system, as well as define what is going to be built, as well as keep track of and manage changes throughout the process. It manages everything that happens in the field as far as scheduling and tasks, meetings with either homeowners or other stakeholders, and it also allows you to create purchase orders. And then there's a customer portal that allows the customer to either log into a portal or receive regular communication over email and what we call a daily report, to give them constant communication of what's happening through the project. It also allows you to have a management system for potential service work that you have to follow up on. And so all of this kind of manages what Diane mentioned in the very beginning as far as the communication on a project. And all of this in this cloud-based application all ties back to QuickBooks as well. So like I said, I'm not going to get into a very detailed training session or a deep dive demo, but I did want to show you one thing. And so if you think about everything that is up here today, this is a lot that can be managed from a communication standpoint on any one project. And there are a lot of stakeholders. And some of those stakeholders may not have access, or you may not think they may have access to a system like this. What many of our customers do is, from using BuildTools, that keeps track of all of this information. And what many of them do is they actually print out a report that looks like this. They actually print it out and they will literally tape it at a job site. So if I'm remodeling a kitchen, just tape it right on the wall. If I'm building a house and I just framed it, I'll put it right on the studs inside the house. And anyone who walks into the job site, and if you have a cell phone on you right now and you could take it out, you can kind of take advantage and see what happens here at a small scale. Just open up the camera on your cell phone, point it at this QR code in the middle, and tap the link that comes up. And what this will show you is the majority of our customers that print this out and put it on job sites, you can actually display the status of the schedule, who the project manager is, selections, change order information, and then those valuable plans that show everybody exactly what they need to do can all be stored in a job folder and all made available through a link like this. And so what that means is all of the vendors that are working on your jobs they can log into a portal, but they don't have to log into the portal. All of the stakeholders, such as maybe the supplier who was just coming to drop something off, the homeowner who was coming in, something to bid out a piece of the change order, can all remain on the same page, because anybody with a cell phone can point their cell phone at this QR code and pull and gather all of the information that you have stored in BuildTools. That's all gathered in one place. Now, granted, this is just one piece of BuildTools, but I thought that it would be important to show it to you, and if you had the ability to interact with it, to show you how important it is to keep everybody on the same page. And if you have the field using the product, purchasing, sales, accounting, estimating, back office, and everybody is using the product, we're getting accurate schedules, accurate selection, good change order management. We're getting good communication in the field. And we have things like this that we can put on the job site to keep everybody on the same page without having to give everybody logins to systems with passwords that they forget and things like that. All right, so what I also wanted to show you here is that BuildTools integrates with QuickBooks. It integrates with both the web version and the desktop version. The desktop version, of course, has a lot more reports and functionality and things that you need as construction professionals. And so it is capable of doing that. And I wanted to just point out a couple of things here. It has an integration with QuickBooks, and it has a way of being able to resolve conflicts. If it sees a conflict between something that happened between the product and QuickBooks, it will pop up with a screen and allow you to resolve that conflict. When you go through the process of setting up the QuickBooks integration, there's a real nice guide that will take you step by step through the process. And it'll show you at what step you are through the process. And as you know from working with Info Plus Accounting, having good, accurate QuickBooks for good, accurate, and up-to-date financials is the key to your business. And as I had mentioned earlier in the webinar, the challenge typically is being able to get everybody within the organization that you need information from to give that to you. But if you have a good project management tool that integrates with QuickBooks the way that we can see here, and it resolves conflicts and it allows you to have a seamless connection that is two-way back and forth with QuickBooks, that will allow you to get information quicker and take advantage of all those great reports that QuickBooks gives you, as well as solving the communication problems within your business. So we put together this wizard to allow you to go through the process. It's easy to set up. It's easy to configure. You can manage it based on the customer or based on the customer's job. There are multiple variations when setting it up on how you would like to configure it. There's a two-way sync when bills go into BuildTools and then they sync to QuickBooks, or if they go into QuickBooks first, they can sync back over to BuildTools. And we need to understand if those bills are paid or not. And we have a way of being able to queue in on certain fields that we sync so that you can see and make sure that they are up to speed at all times. What we're in the process of doing now is we're in the process of expanding the integration with QuickBooks. So we're looking to expand it out to budgets and purchase orders so that we could have live purchase order updates syncing back over to QuickBooks in the future as well. So there's a couple slides here that will show you that. And so what I wanted to do here is really just kind of wrap up overall when thinking about managing projects, solving the communication issues. Really, we all have decisions to make when running our entrepreneurial businesses. And we can look at this, we can look at the technology road and the technology barrier that we talked in the beginning. We know where the construction industry fell on the digitization chart. We can really look at every step that we make as a business. And right now at this decision point, we can say, you know what, do we want to keep going in the direction of manual communication, paper-driven workflows, Excel spreadsheets that multiple people can change without a good audit trail of what's underneath it, having people duplicate efforts so that we can have good finances to try to run this report once a month or whenever we believe that it's accurate because everybody has given us the information, or we could make a decision to improve our communication, adapt technology, and really help us with our project management, help us scale as a business, help us appear better to our clients and be the business that trades want to work for, and all while improving our profitability. And that's the path that our customers have chosen to take, and that's the path that I hope that you'll consider after this webinar here, which would be moving over towards using a product like BuildTools. So in the downloads, you have a copy of these slides, and what you'll see is there's a contact section over there where you can click to go ahead and view our website and learn a little bit more about us. So appreciate it, Diane. I think we're going to move it back over to your side now.
Wow, I was just so impressed. I had seen the slides before, Bob, but having you just walk us through that and talk about those communication roadblocks that occur. Sometimes people lots of times we call it the back office and the accounting side, we're just left scratching our head going, what happened in different areas? And this sounds like such a great communication tool, and you just pointing out where all of those breakdowns and all of the different people that have to be communicated with. It's kind of astounding. Sometimes I'm just in awe of what people in the construction industry actually accomplish, given all of the challenges and communication changes and things that happen during a project, and that they still end up with something that looks wonderful and beautiful and, end up with everybody being, relatively happy, but boy, it's at quite a cost. And so if there's any way that people can make it through that process with less stress and more information and to come out on a more profitable side, wow, that's just exciting. So thank you so much for all that insight. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me.
Okay, so hey, this is one of the, we're not quite done. We're still going to run through some Q&As. If you guys have questions, go ahead and drop them in the question box, and we'll be sure to provide them to Bob. And of course, I have some questions for Bob that I'd prepared ahead of time. He might have already touched on some of them. But before we get to those questions, we're going to have our giveaway result. And Bob has been really kind enough to, we almost always have a giveaway from InfoPlus, but Bob's BuildTools company, you guys are going to give something away today, right, Bob?
We are. So today we're gonna give away to the chosen number that is selected here a $50 Amazon gift card.
Okay, terrific. And so we have in the background our COO, Laura Bell. And Bob, what number? Laura's going to count through the attendees, okay? And she will select the number that you give her. So, no way anybody can figure this out ahead of time. So what's your number that you're going to have her select, Bob?
Let's go with lucky number 7.
That's great. Well, hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here, and what a terrific presentation, Bob. Thanks so much. Number 7 today is Perry.
All right. Congratulations.
Okay.
Perry.
Yay, Perry. We will be in touch, and we'll also make that information available to Bob's team. And they'll be sure that you get your $50 Amazon gift certificate. So congratulations. Okay, and then what we do is we give away an Amazon Echo. And we're going to do number 17. So Laura, who's our number 17?
Number 17 is Alfredo.
All
Okay,
right.
yeah. Congratulations, Alfredo. And our air traffic controller, Raquel, will be in touch with you to get a mailing address so that we can make sure that we get that mailed directly to you, okay? Keep an eye out for that incoming inquiry from Raquel. Okay, so one of my questions for Bob is just, how did BuildTools just come into existence? I think you just kind of touched on it, but maybe tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. There's a home builder in Minnesota. The custom home builder name is actually Stonewood Homes, and they used a variety of different products out there and realized that they really needed a project management tool that was more budget focused, more focused on the individual cost aspect that could feed their QuickBooks system. So they decided to develop BuildTools on their own, and they also have a remodeling company that does about 50 jobs a year. And so they developed it, they self-consumed it, took it to market, and ECI saw that as a very good partner. And so ECI brought it on board. But the original builder that did that had a lot of really good ideas and concepts, and now we're able to work in the rest of the hundreds of builders that have signed up since then and ensure that we have the best practices from a great variety of different types of builders.
Okay, so then that kind of, and when I say who do you work with, tell us who your typical sized customer is for BuildTools.
So typically it's a custom home builder that has 3 or more employees, subcontracts more than half of their work, usually 70% or more of their work. They're usually doing over $1.5 million in annual revenue, somewhere more than a couple jobs a year, about a couple jobs or more a year. And this is a growing custom home building organization looking to grow, looking to tighten up. We also have quite a few companies that are in the 20 and 30 million range that have been with us for a while or jumped on board at a larger scale and rolled it out to the whole enterprise. We also serve the remodeling industry. So we have remodelers that do a handful of jobs each year, and we have remodelers that do 3. I think our largest remodeler does 350 jobs a year. So we have quite a few remodeler customers as well.
Okay, and this is going to lead us into you hadn't mentioned this before, but we talked about this before we started, about what is your typical process for taking on a new client. And I believe you have something special for the people who are in this webinar or even watching the recording in the very near future.
We do, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. So we realize and we have recognized, I should say, that implementing the product is the most important part. This all sounds like a great idea, and it's not easy to change your business by adapting technology. And I'm not, say that it is. for those who have tried products like this in the past. So what we do is we have a process where we learn about the business, we create what the goals are ahead of time and our top 3 priorities of the implementation for a set period of time. And then we go through the process of helping the end customer accomplish those goals while getting the product rolled out through the organization. We do that with trainers and coordinators to help you through the process. We also have what's called a professional implementation, where we actually do some of the data building work, and we get a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more time, and we bring in some home builder experts to help us through the process as well. And so that professional package, there is a cost to it. It's $1,000 one-time upfront investment. We've had some very successful implementations. Post-implementation, we have a world-class support and customer success organization with good online help and follow the sun type support.
Wow, that is a huge value. I know just kind of trying to wade into a new program on your own can be very overwhelming, and lots of times there are lots of pieces and parts, so having that helping hand along the way is huge value. I do have a question, several questions out here from Phil, and Phil's asking, is BuildTools a subscription-based service? Are there various, he says silos, but I'm thinking modules that get cloned together?
Yes, BuildTools is a subscription service, and that subscription covers the software is offered over a web browser, so it is hosted in our secure hosting environment. We focus on backups and IT security of your information, and the way that BuildTools is paid is the base subscription is $299 per month. That gets you up to 3 users, and then every user after that, it's $20 per month per user when you start at user number 4 and beyond. And you get, as far as your question about the actual product, all functionality of the entire product from the very beginning to the very end is included in the subscription. We don't break it apart into pieces. It is our goal to get you to use as much of the product that your business has a need for, and really we love it when you use every single piece of the product.
Okay, great. And then to go along with the implementation, the question is, how long does a typical implementation take?
Our implementation projects average a little less than 60 days. It does vary by the individual company, and things that you can do to ensure that you are maximizing your time, whether you're working with BuildTools or any other software, just from my experience, is have somebody in your organization that we're gonna call the champion. They're the person that's going to coordinate the meetings. They're going to be in every meeting, and they're going to make sure that tasks are going to get done, whether they're doing them personally or going out to team members to get them done. And BuildTools is a product that can be installed immediately. You have immediate access to the software. There's a couple of things you do in the very beginning, like loading your vendors in, your contractors in, setting up your cost codes. But after a brief setup, really you're diving right into projects. You're setting some configurations and you're working in there. You're actually doing real work in the product. So it is not one of those products that is going to take you months and months and months to build data for. I mean, you get the software right away. You set up your configuration. That's why we ask a lot of questions about your business and make sure that we understand how you operate and where the pain may be. And then once it's configured, you're really working on projects right out of the gate.
Okay, and another question from Phil. I guess I should have asked this, but do you offer certification for pro advisors?
That is a great question, and one that we are exploring at the time. We don't currently have a program in place today, but one that we are talking with some individuals about, and I would be happy to entertain that conversation with anyone that is interested.
Okay, great. I see a couple more questions out here, but I'd like to get through a few more of these and then we'll jump back and forth. How do you go about supporting new customers?
So support tickets go into our organization. We have a couple of tiers, which means that we're going to be able to get your support ticket as fast as we possibly can. If there's an issue or a problem with the software, that gets the highest priority. We also have inside the program self-help tools. We use a product that's called Pendo, and it integrates in with BuildTools. And you get this product, and what it does is it keeps track of our documentation, our help videos. It's smart enough to understand what you're doing, and it provides us analytics so that we know what you're doing as we go into a support call, and that we can look at large scale what our customers are doing in general, so we can focus on really helping the masses become as efficient as they possibly can in helping the industry.
The next one I think you've already touched on. And then how is your software different from BuilderTrend or CoConstruct?
It's a different way of managing projects. The other products that you have listed there are good products. BuilderTrend is better for if I have some plans, some floor plans, and some options. And I have the front end is really important to me from a selection standpoint for predefined type things. The way that we believe that the product was differentiated from the very beginning when it was developed is that the builder who had this vision said, you know what, I've tried those products and I really need to start at the cost code level. I need to start with understanding my cost inside and out and tightening up that aspect of the business and all communication around it, and then build the product out from there. That was a little bit different than the way some of the other products were designed and the methodologies behind them. So I think what you'll find in BuildTools is that it is an excellent costing tool, and all of the communication and operation management is all built around the cost code and the operational functional flow.
Okay, so what's your stick or success rate?
So we're a little less than 80% right now for implementations that stick.
And exactly where are you located and how many people are in your company?
So the ECI headquarters is in Dallas, Fort Worth. It's a worldwide organization that supports multiple verticals. BuildTools is in the residential construction vertical, and the headquarters is in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. So ECI in general has over 2,700 employees. The residential construction unit has about 150 employees supporting BuildTools and a handful of other products.
Okay, so you've got a good solid support staff. The last screen here, and I'll go back to the remaining questions. So to see how other construction companies use BuildTools to transform their operations, you can click on the link, which will be in the deck that will be out there for you tomorrow. And there's going to be a phone number here if you want to take a quick screenshot. And be sure to let your BuildTools representative know that you watched our webinar or the recording for that additional implementation help. And just a bit about your sponsor, InfoPlus Accounting. Our most popular product is our online job cost training for QuickBooks Desktop. We call it CAMP, the Construction Accounting and Management Program. We also have a pre-built construction template for QuickBooks called Accounting Pro. You can find out what your employees really cost per production hour for when they're out working through the Employee Cost and Pricing Analyzer. It's a labor burden cost calculator. To get accurate reports every month, a good thing to be using are month-end closing procedures. It's pretty impossible to get everything in perfectly without going through that closing process. We do have a profitability management tool, free self-assessment, and we offer significant discounts on QuickBooks and enterprise software, and this is our contact information. Okay, terrific. Now I'm going to go back to the last couple of questions out here. Is there any automation for the setup, such as a bulk load CSV upload capability of vendor and cost code data?
Yes, yeah, all of the different areas that have a maintenance, such as vendors and cost codes and things like that, you can upload in CSV or general Excel format, or you can take the standard templates that we have out there.
Okay, and we only have one last question. Phil asks, what happens if my company is not using best practices? How do you merge those procedures?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we come across that quite a bit. So we do an in-depth discovery in the beginning, and we find out how you are operating. And again, we find out if there's pain or if there's not. And if there's not pain in the way that you are operating, then we will ensure that we configure BuildTools to work in the way that it's going to best support your organization. We do a really good job of discovering in the sales process as well. So if you're doing things that are completely outside the scope of what BuildTools does, or we think it's not going to be a good fit, we do a pretty good job of telling you that up front. We also have a month-to-month contract as opposed to long commitments. So if you find out it's not the right fit in the beginning, it gives you an opportunity to jump out after a month or two. And that's really why we have an 80% stick rate, because some people find that maybe it's not quite for them, but we do a good job of finding that in the beginning and trying to head that off.
Oh yeah, that's terrific. Keep people from, spending money on something that's not going to be a good fit is a huge service. Okay, so thank you so much, Bob. It's been great having you here. And I want to thank our audience today for joining us. I hope you found this instructional and entertaining and insightful. And Bob and I both want the best for all of our clients. We want you all to be more effective, more efficient, more profitable, and to live a happier, stress-free, maybe not stress-free, but less stressful life, because you're doing great work. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Bob, and everybody stay tuned, and we'll be having some more of these terrific webinars in the future. So Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Diane. Thank you, everybody.